My name's Hannah Recker. I lead our marketing team here at Coefficient and have been leveraging Coefficient even before I started here at Coefficient. So I always get excited about these playbook sessions and just learning kind of the intricate details of what people are building inside of their spreadsheet. I'm joined here by Victoria Wong, our solutions engineer. Victoria, if you want to say hello.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm one of our solution engineers at Coefficient. I support the team with just talking to customers, learning more about what you guys are doing, all the analytics that are up and coming these days, and also doing customer demos, showing you more about how to use the product. So nice to meet you all.
Awesome. And yeah, I will go ahead and introduce Shantanu. Shantanu's been leveraging Coefficient in a lot of ways and is currently heading up sales ops at MoEngage. He's going to jump in and obviously dive into a sales compensation tracker, but tell you a little bit more about how he found Coefficient, what he's using it for at a high level as well. We're all here to answer questions live, even if it doesn't have anything specifically to do with this commission tracker. If you have questions in the chat that are relevant, that are relevant even outside of this, we'll go ahead and answer either synchronously with the presentation if it's relevant for that, or at the end of the session. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Interestingly enough, it's awesome. We've kind of gone full circle before we jumped in today. Victorian actually was troubleshooting some of this workflow with Shantanu a few months back. So I'm excited for us to all see everything that we've landed on and how this is working internally for you at MoEngage.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Hannah. So yeah, just introducing myself. As Hannah mentioned, I'm Shantanu. I look after sales operations here at MoEngage. I've been here for about 3 years, and just to give everyone context, a little bit more about what MoEngage is and what we do. So we're a global MarTech company. We are essentially in marketing automation, and we specifically specialize in customer engagement. So MoEngage at a very high level is an automated customer engagement platform. And at the same time, we offer different types of analytics as well. So currently, we are a global organization and we look after sales operations across the globe based out of Bangalore, India. So we are present in about, I would say, 30 countries. We have teams spread across 6 continents. So yeah, we're working across the globe. We're truly a global support RevOps function here based out of India. So yeah, just jumping into it, I would first like to just talk about how I found out about Coefficient. So Coefficient was actually introduced to me by my manager, Shravan, who's actually worked with the founder and CEO of Coefficient before. I think he worked with him maybe a few years ago, just in helping with the product and sharing a lot of feedback during those initial days. And he always insisted that I use Coefficient a lot. And I was always apprehensive to it, as most of us are when we're stuck to a certain workflow. So it took me a while to definitely get used to Coefficient, but I'm so glad I did. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I found Coefficient. And I would love to just go about how I'm using Coefficient at a high level before I just jump into the specific use case I'd like to talk about. Cool. Okay. Yeah, this was my introduction. So yeah, I largely just look at compensation as well as the post-booking workflows. By post-booking workflows, I'm talking about once a deal is actually signed, what are the different flows that we have? So we essentially have 2 separate flows. One is sharing information with our professional services or implementation team who actually implement the tool and integrate our platform into the app or website of our customers. And at the same time, it also involves sharing and collecting data with our billing team. So those are the 2 main workflows which happen from a post-booking standpoint. And that's what I primarily use Coefficient for. So yeah, just talking about my RevOps journey. So I, in fact, just to give everyone some background, I came into MoEngage like about 3 years ago. I previously used to work for WeWork India, and that's where I sort of got into sales operations. But then obviously transitioning from a very core product real estate company and then switching to a usage-based SaaS company was a big shift from a sales ops perspective, because the way we track data, the way we price our product, the different parameters that we use are completely different. Also because we're at different stages of growth and the product itself is completely different, right? So there was definitely a large learning curve in trying to understand SaaS. And Coefficient has sort of really helped me get a sense of the data as well, for that matter. So biggest pain point that I've solved for using Coefficient is basically visibility. So as you know, as everyone on this call, I'm sure, is aware that CRM licenses can be expensive. So how do I possibly share information with different functions across my org without giving them a CRM license? So Coefficient has really helped me share that data in an easily consumable way. And then, yeah, next up in my automation. So today, just to give everyone a view about how our company functions, is we have our CRM, which is still in a relatively nascent stage. So today, a lot of our product level info has just started flowing in, but at the same time, we have some work to do in how we plug in invoices and our billing data back into our CRM. So basically what I'm using Coefficient for is using its NetSuite integration into Google Sheets and then transferring that data into our CRM. So that just brings me to the point about how we as an organization or a team have been using Coefficient. So we essentially look at Coefficient as the start of understanding a problem, right? So today, when our data in CRM, at least to me, is not easily, for the lack of a better word, calculatable, right? So I use Coefficient to just sort of bring the data into a format which is more easily readable and presentable. So that way I understand the crux of the problem a lot better. This basically allows me to collect data over the course of time. It might be in a manual way, but at the same time, it helps me share this information internally and build a case as to this is a real problem that we're looking to solve. And then hopefully down the line, we sort of invest further into solving that problem, right? So that is basically how we're looking at Coefficient. And a few examples of that is sort of automating how our projects are being tracked. So if they were previously being done in Google Sheets, then how do we transfer that data back into Salesforce? Do we need to start investing in a project management tool? That's one example. How do we understand our compensation better? Do we use Coefficient to sort of bring that data into Google Sheets, our billing data, plugging it in, and then sort of understanding the need for a billing software and also eventually for a commissions calculator tool as well. So basically how we've been using Coefficient is just to build an internal case about how big a problem is and eventually take it to the next step. So that has basically been our outlook. I'd just like to quickly stop and ask if anyone has any questions. Feel free to interrupt me. I'd be happy to answer any questions as I'm going through this presentation.
Yeah, I have a quick question actually. So it sounds like you're kind of using Coefficient as a stopgap, right? For like kind of net new software that you need, right? So ultimately it sounds like as Mo Engage grows, like you want an actual sales commission tool at that point, like formalize things and everything. But obviously you're in a startup, like you have particular budget you need to stick to, and you need to decide on where that budget is like most beneficial at the time. So I'm curious if there are other stopgaps you've leveraged Coefficient for, where you kind of see Coefficient, like you see Coefficient as a kind of stopgap, like kind of homegrown software that's kind of then will level you up and give you honestly like the ability to sell, again, kind of what you're calling that issue internally. Have there been other like workflows or kind of software you've built in Google Sheets that you see like eventually moving into a full-blown like tech solution?
Oh, yeah, sure, Hannah. So we're currently in the process of just trying to understand how our billing data plugs into our sales data. So as you know, like the booking of revenue and the realizing of revenue might not necessarily be 100% match, right? So what we are currently doing is we are syncing Salesforce data into Google Sheets and NetSuite data into Google Sheets, and then trying to plug that data in together. Because today our billing team works a little manually. While they do use Salesforce data to a large extent, they still manually look at order forms and then sort of raise invoices to customers, right? So in that way, we understand where these discrepancies lie. It also gives us insight as to how our billing data and sales data is sort of breaking, and then we can fix it on both fronts. So then that helps us understand if we need anything on top of our billing data or a billing software, which is just NetSuite, just to raise the invoices in a more accurate way. It also helps us understand if we need to make improvements on how our deal desk team is sort of like integrating products and quotes into our system. So that is another way which we're sort of evaluating that problem now, and we're hoping to take next steps as well.
Okay. And so basically it's like Google Sheets is giving you that flexibility and visibility on workflows in general, like small pieces and large pieces of workflows and gaps and inaccuracies and everything. I love that. I'm actually curious. I have another question as well, just for the audience, really. It's interesting, like your story going from not being in like the SaaS world, right? Like kind of being in real estate, which is interesting to think about. Obviously, that is what WeWork is, but yeah, it's always interesting to think about it that way, to technology, right? So like, what are, just at a high level for the folks here, like, what are things you like and dislike about both? And do you feel like you're going to stick around in tech?
Is that for me, Anna? Or
Yeah, for you.
yeah, I think in general, I think SaaS has a lot of um, like RevOps, like scope for RevOps, right? So there are a lot of things which we can automate in SaaS and the way we're run. So I also think that at the same time, the scope for SaaS is a lot larger when it comes compared to real estate. And there are so many different niche organizations or sort of products or industries just within SaaS itself, right? So you have like so many like compensation tools, which is a niche. You have MarTech tools. Within MarTech, you have customer engagement platforms and customer data platforms and so on, right? So there is a lot more scope, I think, within SaaS, and that's why I'm very comfortable with this decision, because at the end of the day, selling a physical product versus selling a software is super different.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot more scope for improvement and automation and creativity, and really evolving a software which also evolves with people's problems. So that's where I really find SaaS interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. I like how it basically, all of that highlights the fact that you're like, you guys are problem solvers, right? And you're like, there's more problems here to solve. So I'm gonna stay here.
Yep.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I always like so this is a question like I get often, right, from different people, like how do you define that you're moving forward, like or growing in a certain like organization or just as a person in general, as a professional, right? So my answer has always been you're solving better problems. So that's basically what we're doing as RevOps folks. So that's been my like, yeah, just my little 2 cents on everything. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just home automation, wish just to keep it a little light. While we are trying to automate everything at work, I'd like to automate a chore wheel at home as well, because I'm always arguing with my flatmate as to who needs to do what next. So just how we assign opportunities, I'd like to assign chores to my
Yeah.
flatmate. Yeah.
You can build that for me and I'll assign them all to my husband. Just make that rule.
That's called gamifying the system, Anna.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. Awesome. Just moving in specifically to my use case, right? So solving compensation visibility securely with coefficient. So I just like to start off by giving an overview about how our compensation is structured at MoEngage and how our sales org is sort of structured, right? So we are a sales org, I would say, of less than 100 people. We're split across multiple regions, and each region has different nuances to their compensation plan. So we might pay them at, each individual would have different comp rates. There might be some spiffs applicable in some countries versus some spiffs applicable in different regions. then at the same time, what we also do is we pay commissions on revenue recognition. So that is, I think, the biggest nuance that I have here, because while booking is obviously the lifeblood of every organization and sales organization specifically, there is a second part to it, which is actually having the money hit our account. And that is basically a large challenge in an organization like us, because we have like complex products and they do take time to sort of like implement. And at the same time, we have different regions sort of having different payment terms, just as a result of like the way business is done in different countries, right? So sort of building a compensation plan which accommodates for all of these different scenarios across 6 different regions is a complex problem to solve. And at the same time, because there is a lag between when a deal is booked to when a deal is actually paid out, there are times where we're paying across 2 different compensation plans as well. So say, for example, I fix a compensation plan for one specific year. So all the deals which are booked in that specific year have one commission plan applicable. And then the next year, that commission plan could sort of change. But then when I am paying out a deal in a particular month, I am not just paying commissions for deals booked in that year, but it could also be for a previous year as well. So different numbers are always present across deals because the spiffs are different, the rates are different across years. Commission rates as well as conversion rates, because at the end of the day, we pay commissions in local currency. So currency conversions could also be dynamic. So we have easily 8, 9 different parameters at a single deal level, which could change year on year. So we have a complex problem, and then we multiply it into 2. So that is just giving a little visibility as to how our compensation plan is actually structured. Cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of complexities for early stage, like org, just because of the nature of like different regions and currencies and different plans and everything, and doing it at that like recognition standpoint as well.
Yeah. So as a result of this complexity, right? So today, for example, if I have booked certain deals in financial year 2023, and I have booked deals in financial year 2024, as of June in financial year 2024, I could be paying for certain deals which were booked in Q1 24, as well as say Q3 2023. And it's really hard for a sales rep to make sense of the number which eventually shows up on their pay stub, because it's just one final number, right? So how do I give them the breakdown to understand what that number is and how it works, how it's actually calculated? So that is basically the problem that I have to solve. And because my billing data isn't necessarily speaking to my CRM, I had to figure out a creative way to build that solution. If there's something which I'm getting a little bit too technical about, please do stop me and ask me any questions that y'all may have. Don't worry about interrupting my flow. Cool. So yeah, just giving you all an idea of our flow, right? So today I have data which is flowing in from Salesforce into Google Sheets. Then within the Google Sheets, through multiple different formulas and conditions, I have built out a commission calculator, which calculates the commission at a deal level. So that would give me the base commission of a deal along with every spiff applicable. So this is essentially like a master commission tracker, which I have for one particular year. And now the next problem that I need to solve is I need to somehow give reps visibility of only their deals from my master tracker into an individual tracker. So a lot of us might be familiar with import ranges. So using an import range and adding a filter just to take it from one sheet to another is a possible solution. But the challenge that I face with that is that import ranges aren't necessarily the most secure, right? And people will be able to debug a formula super easily. So that is a concern that I have, because at the same time, for data security reasons, I also don't want to give ability to any of my sales reps to download the data offline. So any deal level data shouldn't be downloaded offline either. So that is the challenge that I was looking to solve. So now, just to summarize the problem statement is, how do I create a personalized commission calculator at the same time maintaining data security and privacy, right? So that is basically the issue that I'm facing. So yeah, I'll come back to these. I mean, I've already gone over these workflows. So just coming to the pain points. So just summarizing what I mentioned before. So we pay commissions on revenue realization. AEs do not have clarity on each spiff and cannot calculate commissions on CRM, as billing software does not integrate with my CRM today. So what did I actually do? So which helped me create the solution, right? So I created a central commission calculator on Google Sheets, which calculates commissions for all applicable deals. Then at the same time, using my master commissions calculator, I basically created a hidden field which was tagged to a user profile within my CRM. So it could be like a unique key, which I've integrated into my CRM, which is obviously hidden for security reasons and just one or two people have visibility into it. And using that secret key, I have imported data from one Google Sheet to another using coefficient, and then hidden that key somewhere in that Google Sheet. So at the same time, my sales reps don't know what their own opportunity or like their owner key would be. And at the same time, by if a sales rep does by any chance know how to use coefficient and has a paid license, they won't be able to just put in anybody else's name or owner key to understand what commissions somebody else is making. So that is sort of the security provision that I put in place. And this was like a hack that we had.
So Shantanu, just to jump in, just to make sure I understand, essentially what you do is instead of referencing, say, the seller's name, the seller's ID in Salesforce, whatever, what you're
Yeah.
doing is you're assigning to each seller a private key, and then
Correct.
you do a filter based on a private key, and hopefully there are enough, there are enough possible values of a private key that you don't have a collision where one seller can work out what the other seller is making. Is that a fair restatement of the approach?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
So yeah, that is basically what we've done. Use that secret key, and at the same time used how like a Google Sheet, right? When I'm sharing it, I'm only sharing it with the reps so they have just view access. So they won't be able to download the data. I have put in certain security measures, and at the same time, I've also just linked it into a Google Drive. So if at any point I want to control access to that sheet, I would be able to do that as well. So that is a little bit about how we've actually solutioned this. I do have a quick sample of the commission calculator, which I can show everybody. So yeah, this is what a commission statement would actually look like to a sales rep. So say, for example, the AE name is me. I basically tell you what the payout month is and the final amount. So the idea is that this amount, which is 91,400, is actually referenced to your pay stub. So you need to understand how we arrived at this 91.4K number. So this basically means I'm splitting it into two separate years, 2023 and 2024. And here I have a transactional breakdown, which gives me the information of at a deal level of the commissions that I've earned, as well as the different spiffs applicable. And I think it's super important to give visibility to people about how much they're earning from spiffs, because that sort of gives them the potential and allows them to prioritize deal terms while they're actually selling. So this visibility, like it could be for more favorable deal terms, for longer contracts, for pushing a specific product, because at the same time, if they don't understand the monetary impact it's having to them, they wouldn't basically able to prioritize that over the course of when they're actually selling the product. So that is something which we found super critical from our end. And at the same time, because we're paying out commissions monthly, this is a dynamic sheet where my payout month automatically refreshes based on Excel formula, and the data is being pulled from my master calculator. So I have created individual sheets for each rep as a one-time effort. But at the same time, once you just pick out the first sheet, all I have to do is edit the owner key, which I have set up as a filter here. And then from there, I just have to refresh the sheet and just like refresh and create a copy, refresh and create a copy for how many ever sales reps that I have. And at the same time, they also need visibility about the deals they've been paid for versus deals they haven't been paid for. So I've just given them a transactional breakdown of all of their book deals and the status against those deals as well. So that is, in a nutshell, how we've built this commission calculator out.
Is there anything that you actually have to change, like in these individual sheets? It's all dynamic, so you're not changing anything on a monthly basis. Everything's dynamic. So unless there's a new, like you get into the new year and there's a new commission structure, you would just add a new row, like new 2025 row with their new commission structure and conversion rates. Like, are conversion rates also dynamic here?
Yeah, they could change every year, at
Yeah.
least.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, once I build it out, this sheet would be good for a period of say 10 to 12 months,
Yeah.
until and unless I add a new year's plan. Like say, for example, now if I add the financial year 25 plan, I will have to go in and edit all of these sheets, but that's just one-time effort. Post
Yeah.
that, this sheet is automatically going to keep refreshing.
Okay.
So every time a rep now asks me, I'm like, here's your sheet, just go to it. And if you have more questions after you look at that sheet, then you come to me.
Yeah. And so are they like, before they had this sheet, what was your process?
So before they had this sheet, we basically just tagged opportunities saying that this is the commission, this is a deal that has been paid, and this is the month it's been paid. And beyond that, they had calculated themselves.
Okay. So basically in Salesforce, you were just like tagging those opportunities. We've paid out like this much is left kind of thing. Yeah.
Correct.
And so what was did you roll this out? When you rolled this out, did you roll it out to like one rep? Like, did you roll it out to everyone at once? How did that rollout process work?
So we created a sample and took like feedback from reps from different regions. At
Mhm.
this while we are a global organization, the format still remains the same across every region. So we just sort of took that feedback in. And honestly, one additional enhancement that we're looking to make to these statements this year is to possibly plug in their deal forecasts as well, just to understand how much commissions they could possibly earn if the deals they forecast actually close. So that's another thing which we would like to do, and also portray different scenarios. Like say, if you've hit 75% of your quota and met certain deal terms, this is how much money you're standing to earn.
Yeah.
And that sort of can be a driving factor for sales rep, because as all of us are aware, money is the key driving factor when it
Yeah.
comes to deals, right?
Just like with the SPIFRA, like line items you have, it's like the more information you can give them, the like better you can motivate them. Yeah, that's awesome.
And honestly, it's just like it's really improved trust in the system as well, right? Because as we're growing, there are a lot of complexities which come into play. And this sort of reiterates the trust within the sales reps and the system. So it's just something that's really helped us. And at the same time, the real reason we built this out, right, is in fact, most of our organization was asking us to go for a commissions tool. But as a sales ops person, I know that it's going to be difficult for me to plug in everything in a tool if I don't have my billing as well automated, because so much of this is built out. So I would rather put time and effort into sort of building out my billing flow and having that flow into CRM first before I can integrate a tool. Because if I don't have my billing workflow integrated into my CRM, I'm basically going to be doing this and then importing it into a tool as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you're gonna have now two things to do.
Yeah.
So I love the way you're forward thinking about it, and you're really like, there's actually other challenges we need to solve before we have a full-on like commission tool. Because they'll just sell you, and then you're like, well, now I'm doing multiple things manually. Tell me more about the feedback you've gotten from your reps. Have you heard, like, have they given you direct feedback, or has it just been like chatter internally?
Oh no, we've gotten direct feedback. In fact, while we were rolling out our 25 compensation plan, we did receive great feedback about their personalized sheets. In fact, we're trying to increase it to different supporting functions as well and sort of use that same format. And at the same time, right now, it was largely just built around individual contributors. So now we want to extend that to sales managers as well,
Or like a
because
team.
that could have a little bit more complex logic too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's
I
gonna
mean,
kind of be like a team
yeah,
sheet as well for a sales manager. That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
any
yeah,
questions, Victoria?
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, it's awesome to see how far it's come since we first met. So, I mean, it's just awesome how you have everything laid out. I remember you were telling about the vision of where you wanted it to be, and it's cool to see that that's happened and how it's automated at this point. Um, I guess I have a couple of questions. I mean, you've already created a great routine for this. So curious to see, you mentioned eventually building this out for sales managers, eventually adding like forecasts. What else do you have on your agenda for, the future of this incentive tracker?
so mostly it's also like the automation of the billing piece. So today,
Mhm.
if my sales data is using like NetSuite and Salesforce, integrating it onto one sheet, and then if my so then Google Sheets becomes my placeholder between my billing software and my CRM, right? So within the Google Sheet, if I'm able to have that data speak to each other, then dynamically export it back into Salesforce, which would then flow into my commissions calculator, I could automate a certain part of my commissions as well. So today, if I'm checking which deals have to be paid out for commissions, that's a manual process as well. But if I'm able to put a stopgap where my finance and sales data is able to sync at least even say for say 40% of my transactions, that would reduce my dependency on say a specific billing person to give me that input.
Right. We know that with our coefficient tool, there are actually quite a few customers that also use NetSuite and Salesforce and like are pulling data from those two systems. So how did you find in terms of just using coefficient to import this data to be able to seamlessly integrate and combine them together?
So I think it's it also has a lot to do with how our NetSuite is built. So because NetSuite has been relatively recent in our organization, there are a lot of improvements which need to happen on that front. So we are currently working on that, but then Coefficient has helped us easily understand where that communication is breaking, like just in terms of simple things, right? Like what is my unique identifier on one system versus another system? Is my invoice value talking to my sales booked value? At the same time, my billing team has more dynamic forex conversion rates than I do, because it's just the state of the economy we live in. So that just helps us understand these problems a lot better.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
so nice to just be able to have that like everything in one place. Like instead of like I can imagine having to find these issues and clicking around in NetSuite to do that, right? Like, is this mapped to this? Like, how else would you do it? You would manually export and put it in a
Yeah.
sheet, explore there, right? So that kind of brings me back to at the beginning when you were like, oh, my sales manager was like pushing me to this tool, and you're like, I don't want to tie myself to any tool, right? But now you're explaining, now you think about coefficient as the ability to not tie yourself to a tool before
Yeah,
you tie yourself or are prepared for a tool. So tell
exactly.
me about your like way of thinking there, because obviously, like, you're paying for coefficient, it is a tool, but it's kind of like this middleware solution that just like seems to solve problems in the background and doesn't seem like a tool that you're stuck to. It's always a tool that is just going to be helpful to not stick you to other things. So tell me more about that, like thinking.
Yeah, so I mean, Coefficient and the integrations that y'all offer actually just help me uh prepare something which is more customizable, right? So in a way, if I am a person who's just trying to understand how sales compensation works in a sales org as well, just to like put a little bit into my background, building it out myself is always going to help me understand it better than getting somebody external to help me build it out. So in that way, Coefficient and Google Sheets has helped me understand things a lot better and also suggest improvements moving forward as well. Because sometimes, like, a lot of things might happen in a compensation tool in the background. And then if I want to eventually debug it, I'm not able to do that without any external support.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is basically the main concern that I had. And at the same time, I want to ensure that my data is flowing in seamlessly before I actually implement a tool. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these tools, which are especially driven with compensation, are at the same time just a fancy way to represent data, right?
Yeah.
With some added security. So
Yeah.
if I can have that ability to do like a majority of that within Google Sheets, I would pick that today. And then as I'm trying to scale, I would then use a tool eventually. And that just
You
helps
actually
me.
then know, like you feel more educated and know, like in the buying process, exactly what you need because you know more about your data, you know more about the process. Yes, I mean that's always my soapbox of like all software, like reporting functions of software, just like fancy spreadsheets that now you're blocked with the UI the fancy UI that they've built, right? And have to rely on what you can do with that UI. Cool. From the audience, are there any additional questions about sales compensation, even if they're high level in the way you're thinking about sales compensation or into the weeds with the technicalities? All right. Well, I know we have 5 more minutes, but if we don't have any other questions, unless you have anything else to share, we can go ahead and hop off. Anything else from you?
I'm good, Hannah,
Okay.
Victoria.
Awesome.
Thanks for your help through the
Yeah.
session. Thanks for being a partner through troubleshooting this, especially Victoria. Y'all have been massive help. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming and sharing with everyone. I really appreciate all the insight, and it was so good to just see like what the bones of your like sheet looks like, and it's awesome that your team's like trusting this process too. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.